Here we're going to look at question 11 from the BMAT 2019 paper. So in this slightly longer question, we're told that we have two metal spheres, one is negatively charged and one is uncharged, and they both sit on top of separate insulating stands, which just means that charge can't flow through these stands to the earth below. We're then told that we take our uncharged sphere and we connect it with a wire to earth so that electrons can flow from this uncharged sphere to the earth. And electrons are going to flow because they're going to be repelled by this negatively charged larger sphere. Then, after a little while, we're told that we disconnect this sphere from the earth, so we take the wire away and it's just left on top of the insulating stand with some resultant charge. So what we can now do is summarise all of this information in these three different sketches. Our initially uncharged sphere with a negatively charged one. We then connect the uncharged sphere to earth, and then we disconnect it. And what the question asks us to do is find which row is correct in the following table. So we're told that in the first column we have a statement about particles in the larger sphere, which is that there are either fewer protons than electrons, or that there are more protons than electrons. We also have this second column which says the final charge of the smaller sphere is either negative, neutral, or positive, or negative, neutral, or positive. So if you'd like to have a go at doing this question yourself, then please just pause the video now. Otherwise, we'll have a go at doing it together in a second. Now, to have a go at this question, it might seem a bit tricky because it seems like quite a lot's happened and we've got quite a kind of complicated setup, or a relatively complicated setup at least. But really, if we look at the answers, there's actually not too much which we need to think about. First of all, we just need to think about the particles in the larger sphere, and this is probably the easiest step. We know that the larger sphere is going to be negatively charged, so we can figure out what this means about the protons and electrons. Now, if something is going to be negatively charged, it means that it has to have overall more negative particles than positive particles. We know that protons are positive and electrons are negative. So, we have to have more electrons than protons to have an overall negative charge. And therefore, we have to have fewer protons and electrons, so we can get rid of this whole these bottom three options which say that we have more protons and electrons. That would result in an overall positive sphere. So, with that considered, we can just move on to think about the final charge of the smaller sphere. Now, to do this, what we have to do is think about what actually happens in this middle step here when we connect our sphere to Earth. So what's happening is that we're going to have this negative charge and it's going to be pushing against the electrons and protons and so on in this sphere. Now this negative charge is going to repel the negative particles, it's going to repel electrons. So we're going to find that the electrons are going to move away from the sphere down this wire to Earth. Now if electrons are being repelled away, then we're going to be left with more protons and electrons on that smaller sphere, and overall then we're going to have some positive charge left on this sphere. So we can go ahead and then just say that the answer has to be answer C, that there are fewer protons and electrons on the larger sphere, and that the final charge of the smaller sphere is going to be positive. So the answer is going to be C.